Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Planning Advisory and Adjustment Committee meeting of Monday, January the 26th. Prior to this, may I just read our Pembroke Land Acknowledgement Statement. As we gather today, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of this committee and the Council of the City of Pembroke that we reside on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins of whose land we reside. We now will call the meeting to order. And can we have approval of the agenda, please? Moved by Marcel, seconded by Ian. All in favor? Thank you. The approval of the minutes of November the 24th, 25 having been circulated. Are there any errors or omissions to this? If not, could I have a motion of approval? Moved by Romeo, second by Ed. All in favor? Carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll go on then to new business. Z1 2026, 0 Bennett Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
The applicant, JP2G Consultants, Inc., on behalf of the property owners, have submitted a zoning bylaw amendment application for 0 Bennett Street. 0 Bennett Street is currently vacant land, presently zoned open space OS by the zoning bylaw. The OS zoning essentially allows for only parkland and related uses. So the applicant's intention for 0 Bennett Street is for a future medium to high density residential development. No detailed concept plan or specific development plan has been submitted at this time. The purpose of this application is simply to establish a general residential type 4 zone for future development, but with a holding zone, an H marker, making any development contingent on the H marker being removed by council, subject to specific conditions being met. So regarding holding zones, the zoning bylaw states that any parcel or area of land may be further classified as a holding zone with the addition of the suffix H. The intent is to signify council's approval in principle of future development of the land for the purposes indicated by the symbol. Where a holding zone applies, no lands shall be used and no buildings or structures shall be erected or used for any purpose other than those uses existing for such land, building, or structure on the date of passing of this bylaw. Any change from the holding zone status shall require an amendment to this bylaw, and the municipality may require the applicant to enter into an agreement for the development of her lands prior to the amendment being approved. So in this case, for the proposed residential type 4 holding zone, it would require, including but not limited to, the following to be submitted to the city prior to the holding zone marker being considered for lifting: a traffic impact study, a functional servicing report, a stormwater management plan, and an application for site plan approval, or a plan of subdivision, or a plan of condominium. Any future development would be subject to standard residential type 4 provisions of the zoning bylaw being able to be met. At this time, no site-specific reliefs are being sought by this application. So from the official plan's perspective, the property is designated mixed use by Schedule A of the official plan 2016. The official plan states that the area bounded by Bennett Street, Boundary Road, and the CNR line shall be developed as a mixed use area comprising new commercial and residential development and existing uses. As the intention of this application is to allow for future new residential development, this application can be viewed as being directly in keeping with the property's official plan designation. Regarding residential uses where permitted, where they are in this case by the mixed use zoning, the official plan this application is in keeping with the residential designations of the official plan because it proposes future residential infill and intensification to result in new residential units in an already built up area. Regarding site plan control, the official plan states that site plan control shall apply to all residential development where the number of lots units is 3 or more. Now, due to more recent changes to the Planning Act, the city has updated our site plan control bylaw to increase this number of units from 3 to 10. Therefore, should any future proposed development be greater than 10 dwelling units, site plan control shall apply. Both the official plan as well as the provincial planning statement direct that future forecasted growth should be accommodated on municipal services. So municipal services for water and sanitary sewer. Servicing is available at various points on the property. The conditions for removing the holding zone marker, the requirement of site plan approval, or the requirement of a plan of subdivision or a plan of condominium, and the requirement for building permits for any future development. All of these will trigger the approval of the operations department to ensure adequate servicing capacity. Regarding the provincial planning statement, 2024, it states that planning authorities shall provide for an appropriate range and mix of housing options and densities by permitting and facilitating all types of residential intensification, including development and introduction of new housing options within previously developed areas and redevelopment, which results in a net increase in residential units. As this application proposes residential development, which will introduce new housing options and result in a net increase in residential units, it is highly in keeping with the provincial planning statement. As such, the planning department is recommending the approval of this zoning bylaw amendment application for 0 Bennett Street from an open space zone to a residential type 4 holding zone. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Chair. A single informational inquiry was received, but we did also receive a submission of opposition from Miss Emily Kops-Soma of 230 Mackenzie Street. If you would like, I can summarize her objections. So her first objection is regarding that an organic right-of-way be reasonably established for walking trails before the application proposes to rezone to high density residential. This needs to be addressed before moving forward with any development plans. Number 2, the issue of fences, CN rail allowed to be placed on their property openly and without consequence that the landowners of the surrounding properties have cared for and maintained for more than 60 years, which reasonably gives them the right to continued use. And number 3, the issue of inadequate infrastructure to support an increase in population should be addressed before any rezoning takes place. Now, in Ms. Kops-Soma has referred to infrastructure as a waiting list for a family doctor, as well as 24-hour veterinary services, just to elaborate on what she meant, what she was referring to when she said infrastructure.
Thank you, Owen. Is there anyone here representing the application? Thank you. State your name and position, please.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee here. My name is Anthony Homick, and I'm the Manager of Planning and a Senior Planner at JP2G Consultants, the applicants for this file. Just a couple of really quick words. As you've heard, and thank you to Owen for a comprehensive presentation there. We have requested to rezone the property from open space to residential 4 with that holding symbol on it. The zoning would very simply implement the official plan designation that's already been designated as mixed use. This is very much the first step in future development plans for this property, but what it would do is provide the owner with the certainty of that parent zoning in place to invest the money in doing future studies and future planning exercises would likely enable him to access financing if that's the case, by having the R4 zoning in place. This vacant parcel, while I'm sure you've all seen in the report, that is a very uniquely shaped parcel of land, but it does present a significant opportunity for redevelopment with some infill and intensification in a part of the city with municipal services that are available, as Owen mentioned, at various points on the property. And we are aware that there are certain constraints that affect the property. There is a force main, actually a Laurentian Valley force main that runs through the property that any future engineering and planning exercises will certainly have to take into consideration. But that, as I said, all of the constraints will be considered as something moves forward, some sort of development moves forward. The application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, as Owen mentioned, and conforms to the city's official plan. And I do hope that this committee will agree and will convey its endorsement on to City Council. Thank you very much, and happy to answer any questions. Actually, I have a very good answer for that. And I just shared with Owen last week that the owners have already commissioned the phase 1 and phase 2 environmental site assessment, and the site is clean.
A couple questions. In terms of the opposition, Owen mentioned an organic right of way, and I've been a lawyer for 15 years and have no idea what that is. Is there any light you can shed on that one?
I too do not know what that term is. I tried to Google it and do a little bit of research, and I couldn't find.
I couldn't even Google it. It didn't come
It
up
didn't yield
on
very many results.
Google. No.
I suspect she's potentially conflating that with prescriptive easement or adverse possession type concepts.
Okay.
I do know that she mentioned, we did exchange a number of emails, and Owen had put her in touch with our firm. So I did email her a few times, and I think that's where a lot of her concerns stem with respect to where neighbors may have placed fences and gardens over the years, and people using the property to walk their dogs and that sort of thing.
But that really wouldn't be anything. Well, I mean, if you're walking your dog, you're actually trespassing on private land. Okay, but I mean, that's nothing really that this committee would take into advisement about zoning. It might be something that I guess she and her neighbors would have with your client in the future if he tries to develop it, but it would be nothing for our place here.
I would agree with you that any issues over property boundaries would be a civil matter and not relevant to the consideration here at this committee.
Okay. I mean, it's a shame that she wasn't here, because I would have liked to have engaged some of those questions with the opponent. Moving past those, since she's not here, I mean, this is basically, when you say a uniquely shaped property, I don't know that that word could ever be more apt than the shape of this particular property. It's, as far as I can tell, it's between some industrial to the south, a mix of residential and some denser residential. I think the old Hillcrest School, which has been turned into, I guess, a multiplex residential dwelling, is to the north. So in terms of an R4, I mean, whether under the present expectations or even the past expectations in terms of the old step system instead of the integration of different housing, I mean, this would fit under both models. We've said it before. I know I've said it, but I think this whole committee has said it before that we are in desperate need of more residential units, whether it's ownership units or whether it's apartments. Both seem to get bought up quite quickly here in the city of Pembroke. So I mean, I'm again without being able to further engage with any of the opposition. Certainly, my scale balances towards approving this, and I don't think Romeo, did you move a motion yet, or so I would move that we accept the staff recommendation and move forward and recommend this one to council.
And the reason for that is that times have changed. It's reality. The city of Pembroke is landlocked. Ottawa River in the north side and boundaries with Laurentian Valley all the way around. We can't push those boundaries out there for further development. We have to depend on infilling and dealing with the open space that we have available. And I don't follow these things, I forget those platforms, but there were people that complained about this thing on the platform. My wife brought me attention to it. And you know, we have enough park space. We don't need any more park space. Matter of fact, I might be enlightened by the planning department, but I thought we had a study a while back that indicated the amount of park space that we had in this community compared to the area of the community was well above the norm. So I know it's prejudiced a bit by the two big parks that we have, but the point is we have a lot of park space. Also, which is maintained by the city and the taxpayers. Okay. Also, we have a lot of open space. We have a lot more open space in this little community than people realize. We have 2 rivers that run through it with all that open space, but all the open space of the hospitals and the former hospitals and the schools and so on. There's all sorts of open space. So when we get something like this coming before us, it behooves the city to have a close look at this and make sure that we follow and help the development. I haven't said this, but I will repeat what someone said on this platform that my wife put in front of me. You know, this is an eyesore. It has been neglected by the owners, but you know, it's located in such a way that it really doesn't bother the bulk of the people, but it's an eyesore, according to the individual who wrote online. And so I will say that perhaps the streetscape of that area can be enhanced by this, any kind of residential development. And when it comes to development, the province has put us in the bind. You have to have municipalities. You've got to put forward some gear to income housing. Even the federal government have admitted that they're not meeting their targets. And the province are having a tough time meeting their targets. So we've got to do our share and do what we can in this city. And so this is a perfect opportunity. And we've got all kinds of development we've already approved in that area. The 3 apartments or the 2 apartments adding to the other apartment on Bennett Street. And then we've talked about other apartments going up on the corner of Boundary Road, and we've approved a lot of them. I'd like to see some more shovels in the ground, mind you, but I think there are some coming. And I mentioned that, and you alluded to it, Counselor, by saying that, it's a natural tendency when there's open space in your area where you begin using it. And in a way, you end up usurping the use of that property when it's private. And a lot of private owners allow it to happen, but you are usurping. I always remember the one thing that came before the planning committee years ago on Pembroke Street West. And it was a complaint from a resident that we were going to block the view of the river and the mountain. Well, there's an easy solution to that. Buy the property so you have your view. You don't own it. I think that's a reality. You gotta be realistic. That's a reality. So I second this motion. I mean, this is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer. The provincial government has mandated that we loosen up the red tape, loosen things on. My God, go talk to the people on Catherine Street when we allowed an R2 zone on a single lot there a while back for a duplex right in the middle of an R1 zone. And that's not just for 2 families, that's 4. Because in each home, you can have a basement apartment. So that makes 4. Go talk to the people on Garden Street, which I met the other day and I got a little shot. Although I didn't agree with changing that property where we're going to put on an R3 building right across from the Fraser Park. And then talk to the people at the end of Mary Street, a mixed zone, R1, R2. And what's going up there? Row housing. Today, we can't be opposed to that. In yesteryears, we would have been opposed to it. So I think that the reality of the situation is we got to carry on with this thing. And that's why I second the motion. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of comments from Ms. Kotsoma, I think is her name. She talks about an organic walkway. Is it a walkway she refers to, or organic pathway? Is that the terminology?
Through you, Mr. Chair, she refers to an organic right-of-way.
Organic right-of-way. Okay, the only thing that I can get my head around, and I mean, it may not be enough property to do that, but if anybody's ever been to Blackburn Hamlet in Ottawa, they have a linkage between blocks and blocks of properties where subdivisions have abutted each other, but in between, there's a bicycle path, trees are growing, and it goes for blocks and blocks and blocks. I think in the planning stages, when they did that, that was years ago, but I had a relative that lived there, and we'd walk there, and the children would take their bicycles there, and the dogs could go there. Even though you're kind of in the middle of a subdivision in a city, you still have this greenery. And I think under the provincial policy statement, there is some suggestion that greenery be maintained and retained, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, I don't know if it would, have any bearing in that particular area. And as you said, Councillor Romeo, about the, that it may not fit there. I kind of agree with you, but I mean, the principle of having something that may be a little green for children, and there's a park here and there's a park there, but does that suit the needs of the residents who would live there? And the other thing is, my reference would be to squatters' rights. Does that still exist, squatters' rights? The lady intimidated that, that they've been cleaning the property that was abutting to the railway property for years and years. By doing that, does that property now become legally theirs? I know in the province of Quebec, if you've maintained a piece of property that isn't yours for years and years, you have a legal title to some of that property. So does that still exist? No?
I would suggest first and foremost that I'm not a lawyer and I would defer to legal advice, but no, I don't believe that these folks would be entitled to squatters' rights simply by virtue of maintaining a portion of the property. They would have to apply for some sort of prescriptive easement or something like that, which would be established through the courts.
My last question, in regards to a provincial policy statement, they want a mix of housing. But I don't see that. I see everything being tightened up. Developers make a lot of money when they can have, 15 triplexes as opposed to a single, a duplex, a triplex. That's where the money is. So does it suit the needs and the aesthetics of our municipality by having all these row houses? I mean, are we in Glasgow and Scotland where you see all these brick tenements, that have been built over the years? Or should we be maintaining a flavor of a mixed type of unit? A single here, a duplex there, a triplex there. What is the proposal? Do they plan to have everything together, or is there going to be a mix of housing as is recommended in the provincial policy statement?
Did you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to say, I like your idea about having some kind of a little, for a better word, organic pathway joining. We have that. It's called the Algonquin Trail. We've got that. How many of those do you want in a community this size? So I think that's not a bad idea, but I don't think we need one in this area. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that the planning is such that you probably have more knowledge about this than I do as a planner, but we're allowing more and more properties on smaller and smaller frontages. How many properties, how many applications have we had here in the last, since this committee's been together in 3 years, where we're making an exception here and an exception there, taking off 5 feet here and 2 feet here in order to accommodate. And that's what the province wants. And some of the arguments you made, maybe it's kind of indicating your age like mine. I think those are the kind of things that we wanted in the past. And but unfortunately, when if people wants to oppose something, they go from the city's decision. If they want to oppose it, they go to now what is called the appeal board. Yeah, to a tribunal. And that tribunal is a single person. And you know what? I spent 10 years part-time working for the Assessment Review Board, going all over the province, dealing with those things. And I'll tell you something, now it's a single tribunal. They're really speeding the things up. And it's a no-brainer. Anybody want to appeal something like this, save your money, because it's not going anywhere. Because the tribunal is looking at the provincial policies, and that's their priority.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, at this
Marcel.
stage of the game, I agree with everything that Romeo says, but we really don't know what's going on that property. We have to wait until we get a subdivision plan or a layout of housing or what's going to go on or how they're going to lay it out. I would presume it'll come back to this committee to approve. So at that time, we can maybe cross some of these swords that we're dealing with now. I support the motion in any case.
Ed?
Mr. Chair, just a final. I'm just confused about what the provincial policy statement says. Does it say we'll provide housing for people, which it does? They want people to live in homes. Are those homes single? Is it a mixed bag? Or it'll be all triplexes within that whole division? That's what concerns me, because then we lose the flavor of our community. We become a New York City. We become a high rise where you don't have the sun shining on some streets because of tall buildings. Are we losing our flavor as a small community over making a profit?
Thank you, Ed. Yes.
So through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Jacquinot, regarding the provincial planning statement itself, while the word, it does say a mixture of densities, mixture being used, there is nothing in the provincial planning statement that highlights low density for being encouraged and protected. Generally, the provincial planning statement is highlighting intensification, so higher densities. So in answer to your question, essentially, no, there is nothing in the provincial planning statement that that is there to encourage or protect lower densities.
And why do they call it a mix?
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Can I hear from you? Yes. Yes.
Thank you. I was just gonna sort of add on to what Owen was saying there, Councillor Giacono, that the provincial planning statement is a very high level, broad document. And so when it's speaking to mix of uses and complete communities and concepts like that, it's really talking about the city as a whole. And so it doesn't drill down to the mix at a site specific level. But what it's saying is that as a community, as a city, that you should be encouraging this mix of uses throughout your municipality. And then further, just to add, that's what's been said a couple of times, there is no concept plan that's been developed yet. So I think it's a little premature just for us to all, myself included, to speculate over the form of housing that's going to ultimately be proposed.
Are we ready to call the motion? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Ontario Regulation 257-25, as of right setback variances. Thank you very much, by the way.
Thank you.
So just
Colleen?
on that
Yes.
final,
Yes.
there is a public meeting scheduled for February 3rd, I believe. Yeah, February 3rd. So
Yes.
council will hear this application before that night.
Oh, good. I'm
Okay.
sorry about that. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Now moving on to the next article, 257-25.
Okay, so this report is to provide the Planning Advisory and Adjustment Committee with information regarding recent changes to the Planning Act. The province of Ontario has recently made an amendment to the Planning Act, which allows buildings and structures to be closer to the property boundaries without needing a minor variance. So this regulation has come into force on November 21st, 2025. And under this regulation, building and structures may be constructed closer to the property boundaries, up to 90% of the required zoning setbacks without needing a minor variance. So for example, right now, the city requires a 20-foot setback for a front yard. So if somebody came and asked for a reduction to 18 feet, which met the 10% requirement, there would be no minor variance and it would be approved as of right. Same thing right now, our zoning bylaw requires for a 4-foot setback for single and semi-detached dwellings. So that can be reduced to 3.6 feet without needing a minor variance. So according to the province, the intent of the regulation is to reduce the volume of minor variance applications and permit more development as of right, which doesn't really impact us. Further, if the applicant is looking to reduce the rear yard, the front yard, and the side yard, say, they are eligible for as of right reduction for 10% of each yard. So it's not a cumulative amount, it's for each yard. So the city of Pembroke's planning department staff is not supportive of the change. We're of the opinion that this approach eliminates setback requirements, have unintended consequences that make the application of zoning standards unnecessarily complex, less transparent, and it's less understandable to the public. Even small variances or several variances may have undue impact that merit review by the committee. And now that'll be lost even if it is less than 10%. So for example, required setbacks in zoning bylaws may relate to factors such as a separation distance between sensitive land uses, and even a 10% change could impact that. That is some of the concerns that we have. There can be some expected loss of revenue from minor variance applications with this new regulation. So there will not be a need for some minor variances. So from a financial implication point of view, we could lose some revenue from that. So that's our new Ontario regulation 257-25.
Thank you. Any questions?
Getting rid of red tape, making it smoother.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Past decision updates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at this committee's last meeting of November 24th, 2025, 2 sets of applications were heard. The first for 2 severances and 2 minor variances for 7, 5, and 9 Bennett Street. And the second set being two severance applications for 140 Quarry Road. All of these applications have successfully passed their applicable 20-day appeal periods. The minor variances are considered final. The severances are considered provisionally granted.
Thank you very much, Owen. Yes, Romeo.
A question. Now, I'm just using 7 Bennett Street and 5 Bennett Street as an example. That came before us, before the planning changes? Or would it fall under what you just indicated, some of the changes?
Through you, I checked all of our 2025 minor variances and they were all over 10%. So nothing in 2025 would have been impacted by this new decision.
Okay, thank you. Owen?
Further, if I could just add, in the cases of those minor variances for Bennett Street, they were all for, the variances were for parking and for, I believe, lot frontage. So those are not setback variances, so they also would not, they wouldn't have been impacted.
Thank you, Owen. Anything further?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
I'm sorry, I should have brought this up. It's just a question of the planning department. It has to do with the 0 Bennett Street. Now, 0 Bennett Street, I'm looking at the map of the property. That's the railroad berm at the top? Is that what that little space is?
That's correct. The property of today's application is the former railway lands.
Yeah, but this property, does it have anything at the bottom of the burn? Like, is it possible to have a street go through that section? Like, it's an irregular piece of property, but
Yes, so there's multiple access points to that property, and I don't think at this point I don't
No.
believe the developer has at all considered what they would do with the access point off Bennett Street. That's
it looks to
we
me
don't.
like it's the width of the railroad bed that's way on top of the berm before it hits the,
But it looks like room between Bennett Street and the Germania Hall as well.
Mhm.
yeah.
That
Yeah,
would-
that
That
one.
would probably be.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think there was a name on Montgomery Street. Why have I got that in my mind?
Yeah, you're right. It was Montgomery and Griffith.
Yeah, and
Mhm. Mm. Ooh,
anyways, okay. Thank
thank
you.
you. If nothing further, our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, February the 23rd, 26th. And if there's nothing further, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Ed, Ian, all in favor? We're gone. Thank you very much.